But the most important thing you are talking is misconception and labeling, which people avoid to go to hospital or talking to friends because of labeling, what we call stigma. And if you can explain what a stigma is, because when you say I have this problem, you are afraid somebody will label you as a crazy or mental health or whatever. And when you come to other settings, when they see you taking some medication, they think, oh, they'll see me as a mental health person, or I'm crazy, or I'll be labeled. That's why most of ethnic minorities are the ones who are not seeking help. Even in talking to friends, they're keeping for themselves. That's why there is no compliance in seeking the help until it is too late. By the time we get them in hospital, they are already in very advanced stages. And when they come to see Patricia in hospital, they already need what we call acute treatment or acute interventions. So stigma, labeling, misconception are the one which are putting us, I think, minority backward as far as mental health is concerned.
I've seen that mental health is now, or mental health and well-being as they're putting it, or health and well-being, is now introduced into schools, put them in primary schools and secondary schools. And I've had a little glimpse of the syllabus, and it's interesting. I think it's a good idea, to introduce the concept of talking about mental health. But as we've just discovered here now, how much does that translate when the kids get home? Are they able to carry on that conversation? Do we have families and parents and siblings and aunties and uncles who are willing to continue that conversation? Or does it just end at school? And then in a way, does the kind of cycle of suppressing and repressing just kind of continue? Because even though you're being made aware of something, you can't actually put it into practice if the people you live with, or the people you talk with often, or the people you trust, or your partner, or whoever it may be, doesn't also have that same level of awareness and understanding.
Young people, they spend most of their time in school. That is where they have friends, there's peer pressure, there's a lot of things, there's isolation, there's a lot of negative things happening there. I know there's a psychiatric leads in some of the school which help to support some of the kids, young people, but I don't think there is enough, and there are more trained people, and I'm thinking there is not much resources in that area. And if there is curriculum to introduce mental health in school and secondary schools, I think maybe the government will invest more, and the demand is more. During the pandemic, the situation was very bad as far as mental health is concerned, and post-pandemic.
So what it is, when you go to your hospital, there is an office for mental health there. So when you go, they log you in, and then they call them. So somebody will come from mental health, they will assess your child, and they will send that report to the GP, and some of them, they will do a referral from there. So that way it will be fast tracked. And the more you attend the A&E, the more they'll fast track it. Because sometimes the GP themselves, they have no experience. Even the GP self, because even years back, this funding thing, we're talking about even the mental health to be in the GP practices, because they have no experience. At one point, a lot of the patients who go for depressed, we had a lot of people who are very depressed, a lot of women. And then all they were giving them is medication. But there will be other therapy things that, as a patient can do. But because the GPs have no that training, they don't have that training where they can refer someone for, let's say, for talking therapy, for CBT, for all the other therapy, because some people don't like to take medication. But like I said, the funding is a problem. But as a parent, we have to be aggressive.
We don't realize sometimes what it looks like for your mental health to decline until sometimes it is too late. Sometimes it's not as obvious as we'd like it to be. We'd like to think we just have a moment of madness and we go, oh, okay, I'm not okay. But sometimes it's a lot more subtle than that. Sometimes it's just the daily stresses of life. Something just like taking the kids to school every day, or always having to make sure that you're home by a certain time, but then having to wait through the traffic that seems to never end. Sometimes it's just standing.
Young people, they spend most of their time in school. That is where they have friends, there's peer pressure, there's a lot of things, there's isolation, there's a lot of negative things happening there. I know there's a psychiatric leads in some of the school which help to support some of the kids, young people, but I don't think there's enough, and there are more trained people. And I'm thinking there is not much resources in that area. And if there is curriculum to introduce mental health in school and secondary schools, I think maybe the government will invest more, and the demand is more. During the pandemic, the situation was very bad as far as mental health is concerned, and post-pandemic.